Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto become Agent of Hell, part 6, the last part. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's get into the video. The Harino clan, while a successful merchant family, wasn't as rich and powerful as some of them would like to think. Sure, they could make some things happen around the village, but when compared to the Hyuga clan, the clan which had many ties in the shinobi ranks while a few in the merchant business, as well as a name which could throw around some weight, the Harino were basically a well-off family. But then again, compared to the number of Hyuga, the Harino clan was lacking, as they only had less than a fourth of their number. "Welcome to our home, Naruto-san," Suki Harino greeted, dressed in a formal pink kimono with white flowers, as the blonde walked into their two-story home. Dressed in a black kimono of his own, Naruto looked at the woman with a blank stare. "I did not know that we were on a first-name basis, Harino-san. As a matter of fact, the only reason I accepted this invitation was because I didn't have any other plans." Seeing that the dinner was taking a turn for disaster, Suki quickly led him into the dining room where he saw that the table had been set for a formal dinner. Normally custom would have Naruto pull the chair out for a lady, but he was still waiting on the test results. Besides, it was for the best. He might just pull the chair out from under her. Pulling his own chair out, Naruto sat down, as Suki did the same. "Harino, let's get one thing straight. I'm not stupid. I know of your past actions, and the hand you had in making my first years of life something worse than hell," Naruto went on, and said, which made the woman look down at her empty plate. A few moments passed in tense cold silence. "Mom, I'm home." The door to the dining room swung open, and Sakura walked in only to stop at the sight of the blonde sitting across from her mother. The same blonde who had attacked her, and her Sasuke wave. But before Suki could greet her child, they held her banshee wail, and quickly drew a kunai, sending it, as fast as she could at the blonde. Naruto leaned his head to the side, and the knife sailed past, missing him, but not the object behind him, and by the loud shattering sounds. It was the large, antique case that showcased a set of fine white china plates with blue designs all over them, and the matching teacups. Everyone stopped at the sound. Sakura looked at the shattered pieces of china with white eyes and pale cheeks. Suki trembled in a mix of anger and loss. The cook who was cooking for them stopped in the doorway and turned, leaving the group. Naruto, however, looked over his shoulder. "That sounded expensive," he remarked while seeing that the kunai was still stuck into the wall. Suki struggled to speak. My mouth, mother's PP priceless dining seed." She screamed out in rage, rounding on her daughter who shrunk under the evil glare. "Sakura, how many times have I told you not to throw things in the house?" With wide, fearful eyes, Sakura shook in fear. "I'm sorry, mommy," she squeaked. "Don't you mommy me. Those were a priceless family heirloom. They've been passed down from mother to daughter for years in our family." Smirking at the cowering girl, Naruto looked at the pile. "Oh look, one plate survived." But the rumbling of the house caused the kunai to shake free, falling in slow motion, and breaking the plate. "Oh, never mind then." With tick marks and veins all over her forehead, Suki gripped the table, while closing her eyes, and muttering, slowly counting back from 10. "Calm down enough to keep from throttling her child," Suki told Sakura to clean up the broken heirlooms, before returning to the room where she placed her arm around the girl. "Namika-san, I would like to introduce my daughter, Sakura," the Harino matriarch told him. Naruto looked at her. "Yes, I know exactly who she is. Today isn't the first time she has attacked me." Eyes switching, Suki's gaze shot towards her child, while her grip tightened. "Say goodbye, Sakura. Now go do your homework." "But mom, I'm a genin now." "Just go." Sakura bolted to her room, when Suki hissed at her. Turning back to the blonde, and cursing everything that was going wrong, Suki gave him a forced smile. She had wanted Sakura to join them, and hopefully catch his interest, but it seemed that hope was over before it ever began. Naruto stood up. "Well, Ms. Harino, I will be leaving." Suki's forced smile turned into a big frown. "But we haven't even eaten." "Well, I suddenly lost my appetite." He went to leave, but Suki was still standing by the door, right in his path. "Ms. Harino, you are quite aware of what I can do. That Anbu commander I killed was a mere annoyance at best. Do you really think that you, a civilian, will pose a threat?" But what?" he snapped. "You are seriously trying my patience." Suki gulped, as she saw the glint appear in his blue eyes. "My clan needs help, sales are down, and we need a clan to back us so more people will buy from us. Your clan is well known, and with you legally sponsoring us, things will pick up. Sometimes just coming clean was the best choice." "I see, and you wanted to try and marry your spawn off to me." She nodded. "Let me tell you something, Harino," Naruto intoned deeply, taking heavy steps toward her, and making the older woman step back. "I've been spit on, cursed at, and beaten, but never in my life have I ever been so insulted. You may think that your darling little princess is the most desirable girl in the village, but let me give you some insight into the real world views. Sakura Harino is the weakest excuse of a ninja that I've ever seen. She bitches and complains more than any other person in the world, stalks the Uchiha while he's walking around town, watches him while she is supposed to be training, and then sits back and watches as her team does all the work. I feel bad for any man who marries her because the moment she gets the chance, she'll drop to her knees and suck any cock for a chance to even date the Uchiha. You may think that you raised a little princess, but you raised a little whore, and to offer her to me in alliance is worse than spitting at me. Suki's back hit the wall, and Naruto's hand slammed into the wall next to her face. Now, I am leaving, and unless you think of something much better than an arranged marriage to your little slut, don't you dare darken my doorstep again, or I'll use my clan name to make sure that you lose every bit of your fucking business. With that, Naruto backed up and walked out, leaving Suki to slide down the wall and to the floor. Hours later, Naruto found himself in a foul mood while sitting at home in his, the next term is used lightly, father's study, looking at a stack of his unholy books on the desk. Scattered all around the desk were numerous picture frames, most of which were now broken with glass all on the floor, and splintered wood from the frames. Also on the floor were scrolls and books, all about sealing, and the techniques on improving. Leaning back in the chair, Naruto held the corner of a letter in his clenched hand while looking at the Necronomicon, the unholy Bible, and a book which detailed most unholy relics. He had come in to read up on the stone, and decided to use the study, but upon sitting down he found a letter from his father, as well as one from his mother. Minato's reeked of self-righteousness, the fool. He had been so proud, saying that it was his duty to carry the fox around to save the village, and that he should be proud. Foolish human, and his stupidity. Had he not been eaten by the Shinigami, he would torture his soul in every level of hell non-stop. Fuck, it'd probably qualify as a 10th level with the amount of suffering that would be inflicted. His mother, however, it was strangely comforting. Would that be the right word? To know that even though she was just as guilty for allowing him to become a demon container, and to be just as stupid to trust his life to the village, that it felt good to know that she loved him. He frowned. Of course she loved him. Any mother would love her child once she gave birth. She spent 9 months carrying him around, feeding him, and nurturing his growing body. The blonde sat up, placing the letter from his mother on the desk while balling Minato's up, and throwing it away before touching his cheek, finding the tip of his fingers a little wet. Growling, Naruto swiped the 3 valuable books off the desk before standing up and kicking the desk with a roar, sending it into the wall where it left a big dent and shattered a picture of 3 genin. Humans cried, not him. He never cried tears of pain or sadness. He was a devil, damn it, devils never cry. As he fell back into the chair with a heavy frown and clenched teeth, the door swung open with Kyubi rushing in, her cloak gone while her dark red, skin-tight battle suit hugged her curves. "Master, are you okay?" she quickly asked, as he rubbed his face with the palm of his hand. "Yes, Caillou, I'm fine. I heard you yell." Naruto looked at her harshly. "I said that I'm fine, Caillou, leave it be." Blinking and nodding, the kitsune looked down. "Yes, my lord." Kyubi slowly exited the room and left her master alone, leaving the door half open, as she did. Kyubi awoke the next day to find herself alone in her master's bed. The lava of scent told her that he hadn't returned that night, and she had slept alone. Days of his nightly warmth had spoiled her, and she missed it. Getting out of the bed, she dressed in one of her battle suits and cloaks and walked down the hall, passing the half-open door leading to the study. It was still trashed, but Naruto was gone. He had probably stayed there all night in that room. Continuing down to the ground floor, she found AM clearing a few dishes from the table. "Oh, Ms. Caillou, Naruto-sama has left already," she told the Redeed in a slightly subdued tone. "He didn't look well," she added, as an afterthought. Pausing to pick up a cup, AM wiped the water from underneath it. "He told me that the Hokage wasn't scheduled for anything today, so you have the day off." Yugao opened her eyes and shot up out of bed, looking around to see that she was in the hospital room, alone, or so she thought. "Welcome back, my pet." She stiffened. She may not have heard his voice in a while, but the cursed vocal tones were forever burned inside her mind. Looking over, she saw him sitting comfortably on the chair next to her bed, and holding the medical clipboard that held her information. "You?" The hooded man nodded. "Indeed me." Yugao glared weakly. "What are you here for?" A small chuckle was heard. "My pet, you should watch your tone with me. I'm here to welcome you back home, considering that you are the only survivor out of your entire squad." "What?" did I stutter. The man asked with a mocking tone. "Your team is dead, and you are the only survivor. 5 have been taken, and you are the only one left." "5? Yugao asked. "My squad only had 5 in it, including me." He hummed. "You will understand soon, my pet. Just know that, as long as you follow my orders, you will get it back, and regain what you lost." The door to her room opened, and suddenly, the headed man was gone, as a doctor and Haid walked in. The lover walked over, and gave her a tight hug, whispering that he was sorry, and that everything would be okay. "I don't understand what happened." The doctor cleared her throat. "Ms. Yuzuki, you were found by a squad of Anbu outside the village. Upon arriving, another squad reported that your squad had been found Kia. Also, we found that, once you were examined, well, I don't know how to say this, but I'm sorry, your child didn't make it." "My child, as in?" The doctor nodded. "We checked twice, all the results confirmed that you were pregnant, and due to the trauma and strain, well, it didn't survive." Tears fell from her eyes, and the comforting words that her lover tried to say fell on deaf ears. All she could hear was that monster telling her he took her child. Walking down the street, Naruto spun a small golf ball-sized orb on the tip of his finger. It was clear, and had a small white light inside it, floating around, but never touching the sides. The soul of the unborn child, a precious thing really, what some demons wouldn't do to devour it whole. Although, the Kyubi wouldn't harm it at all for some reason, maybe some female thing about babies, and children. If you were to give this to them, you would have a better chance at taking over hell before you harmed the little one, as those demons cherish those little souls. Their kind didn't harm children at all like some would. Naruto caught it, as it dropped, and felt Kyubi's presence appear at his side. "Good morning, Caillou," he greeted, as she ignored the looks of lust that men sent her. "Sir? I trust you slept well." Kyubi frowned under her hood. Actually, it was a little cold. "Then you should wear something to sleep in instead of sleeping in the nude." The two ignored the fainting men who dropped in the streets with bloody noses, some of whom were punched in the face for suggesting to their wives or girlfriends that they do the same. "Oh, and be a dear, and hold on to this for me," Naruto told her, before tossing the unborn soul over to Kyubi, who scrambled to catch it, as it slipped from her grasp. She looked at it, her crimson eyes widening. "Is this what I think it is?" she asked while taking a small sniff of it. "Indeed it is. I'll guard it with my life." The blonde nodded. "See to it that you do. This is an important object to me, and my future plans." He stopped a step closer. "It is important to you, as well as your future hinges upon my future plans." He told her in a tone that told her that he wasn't joking, but was soft enough not to be overheard. He stepped away, and walked into a tea house, following closely behind. They settled down at a table, and ordered some tea, sitting in silence, as the waitress, who was dressed in a pink kimono, left with their order to have what they wanted made. "Mr. Namikaze." Naruto turned to see a middle-aged woman standing next to his table. She had a strict no-nonsense visage, and serious brown eyes that matched her brown ponytail. She wore a black suit which was free of wrinkles or loose threads, but showed a moderate amount of cleavage, a black skirt that stopped just above the knee, and had shiny black heels on her feet. "May I help you?" In one hand she held a briefcase, under her other arm she held a few files, and scrolls. "My name is Nori Kuroyama, attorney at law." She put the briefcase down, and grabbed a pair of scrolls, showing it to him just below her chest. "Do you know what these are?" Cocking an eyebrow, Naruto looked up at her face, then down at her cleavage. "Ah, the D-cups of justice, I presume." A vein popped up on her forehead. "No, these," she stated while making sure the rolls of paper were noticed, "are lawsuits against you for the wrongful death of." Seeing his blank look, she sighed in annoyance. "The Anbu commander you killed." Naruto oohed with his mouth, then shook his head slowly. "Let me guess, his family hired you." "That is confidential." Naruto chuckled. "I see. Well, whatever could the family of the late commander want? I can neither confirm or deny that his family has any part in this. But you are being sued for 50 million yen, roughly over 500,000 US, to pay for emotional damages and funeral costs." Naruto just chuckled. "I see. Well, it sure took you a long time to bring me up on these charges." "Well, I've been building my case against you, but the family has agreed to settle out of court for half of the desired amount." The lawyer told him, inwardly freaked out and worried by the smirk he wore. "Oh, I bet they would, but I'm going to have to bring in my own lawyer. I assure you that things would go much quicker to settle things without having to go through the court system." He brushed her off. "I'm sure you'd like that, just as much as my good friend Jin Renzo would like to hear about me being extorted by the family of a man who attacked me in front of not only the Hokage, but both councils as well." The woman started to pale. "So I'll see you in court, Ms. Kuroyama. I shall be countersuing both your firm and clients for, say, 50 million yen. Maybe I'll have you both arrested for attempting to blackmail and extort a high-ranking shinobi of the village." He turned to look at her completely. "But you can save yourself the trouble and shame, because I'll settle out of court for half," he said mockingly. But before she could speak, Naruto cut her off. "Fuck off, I'll see you in court." As it would turn out, Sarutobi refused to let the case go to court, and agreed with Naruto that the case was basically an extortion scheme, as the commander had tried to kill Naruto. The wife had been fined and sentenced to house arrest, while the law firm they used was fined as well for supporting extortion. But besides the giant scandal it caused, a stream of rumors followed in its wake, saying that the only reason the Anbu commander had wanted him dead was because he had gotten his wife pregnant, which didn't help when she was seen with a swollen belly just before being confined to her home. A few other versions were out there too, but they were hard to believe, some saying that the woman had been having an affair with him for a long time, years even, and that she wanted him to pay her to keep silent. And while it sounded possible, the fact that he hadn't been in the village long enough made it impossible. Other than that, the Anbu were now on high alert after what happened to Yugao and her squad. Patrols outside the village were on the hunt for a woman in white with long red hair wielding an ajanata. That woman had killed 4 of their own, and they all wanted it back in spades, revenge for their brothers and sisters in arms. But not all those squads got the chance to go hunting. The weeks leading up to the finals flew by in the blink of an eye, and soon most were patrolling the rooftops and watching as the streets were filled with ninja and civilians alike, all enjoying the pre-exam tournament hype. Naruto and Kyubi hadn't had any more time off either. Both were having to escort Hiruzen around in public, going with him to greet the other cages, and daimyo, just basic bodyguard things. But, as each lord and cage arrived, Naruto had felt the stone's allure grow near, as he stood next to Sarutobi, waiting at the gate, to meet the fire daimyo, who was the last to arrive on the day before the exams with his wife and teenage children. He was a short elderly man with a long white beard, and a bald spot on the top of his head. He was also a bit thick in the middle, but not in a sickening way, just enough to give him that pleasant grandfather look. His wife was just a little taller than him, but only a bit younger than him. She had crow's feet and grey hair which was done up in a ball with an elegant hairpiece holding it up. She looked like a kind old lady to say the least. The son however had to be around the age of 18, long light brown hair pulled back in a noble ponytail, and unlike his father, he looked a little stuck up and arrogant. Growing up, as royalty did that to a kid. The girl was a year younger, but made the son look timid. He could see that in her eyes a hateful fire glowed. The way she snorted at the welcoming crowd and glared at them showed that she felt that they were unworthy to even look at her. The royal family stepped away from the carriage at the foot of the Hokage Tower, and the daimyo stepped up to greet Hiruzen. "Welcome to Konoha, Lord Hiroshi," the Hokage bowed, as the Fire Lord had him stand. Hiroshi smiled. "Hiruzen, you do not need to bow, you're my old friend, are you not?" The younger, yet still old man stood straight with a big smile. "I see you've brought your family." Hiroshi nodded. "Why yes, you remember my wife Makoto, my son Kahaku, and my daughter Kamiko," he said, nodding at each one. "I see you have a new guard with you." The commander retired. "In a sense," Hiruzen said with a sad tone, "he's dead." The Fire Lord frowned. "Oh, I'm sorry. How'd he die?" Hiruzen patted Naruto on the shoulder. "Would you care to tell him?" Naruto nodded. "Daimyo-sama, it would seem that the news of his replacement in this glorious position caused him to snap. He challenged me to a match, and couldn't handle the truth, so I killed him in self-defense with his own blade." The daimyo looked a bit shocked, as did his family. "I see." The Hokage waved the family toward him. "Well, I'm sure that you'd love to rest up. I've had the Hokage manor prepared for you, and your family to relax from your trip." The Fire Lord nodded, and the group strolled down a cobblestone path leading up to the Hokage's manor, a place that the Hokage was given upon attaining his or her title. It was owned by the village, and he nor his family had to pay rent if they stayed. Sometimes they didn't even use it, and chose to stay in their own homes, or in Hiruzen case, the Sarutobi clan compound. Naruto and Caillou took up positions slightly behind the group, and scanned the trees and buildings, noticing only a few low-ranked ninjas from various nations, checking out the daimyo's arrival. The blonde found himself distracted however, as he felt the stone's aura practically yelling at him. Lucifer was right, the stone did come to him in the form of the royal family, and by the way the girl was acting, she was now wearing it from what he could tell from her behavior. Her eyes had this glint in them, the glint of a cruel heartless monster, the same glint that he hid from those around him. He almost laughed, thinking of how easy things were. All he had to do was steal the stone from her, and continue on with his plans. But that could wait. He had a tournament to dominate, and the Hokage was going to give him the rest of the day off to rest up, as he would be the guard that stood next to the Hokage during the final part of the Chunin exam. Standing next to the Hokage with a blank look on his face, Naruto watched the genin fight their matches. The chairs were ranged side by side with the cages sitting on one side while the daimyo and their families sitting on the other, but close enough to talk to each other, as a show of open trust. Each cage shared their opinions on each match, pointing out flaws and weaknesses for some, while sometimes giving praise for good strategy. The exams went by without a problem, although Naruto noticed that he was getting a few strange looks from others, but ignored them, and soon the one who was announcing the matches was congratulating the winner. Gar. Naruto allowed a small, brief smirk to graze his visage, before wiping any emotion from his face. He was proud of his little raccoon dog. She had taken his advice, and didn't rely on her sand as heavily as she had in the past. Each cage congratulated the Kazekage for his daughter's success, before the announcer continued on to loudly announce that the tournament was about to begin after a 5-minute break, during which each cage and daimyo made a small bet with each other, betting a small amount of money and their pride that their village would come out on top. Not in an arrogant way of saying that they thought that their village was better, but in good sport. Soon the wait was over, and the announcer called out 2 names. Both were jounin, one from Kiri and another from Kumo. Unlike the genin, these 2 were highly trained, and knew that they had to showcase their skills to the important poetical clients, so instead of going straight for a quick win, they fought using to wow them for a few minutes, before going for a win. The Kumo ninja lost, knocked out by the Kiri ninja. Now, would Kako Idamaru of Iwa, and Naruto Namikaze of Konoha report? They jumped down from one of the many contestant areas, while everyone else was looking for the Namikaze, especially the Tsuchikage who had only just heard of the Namikaze having an heir. Naruto took a step forward, taking off his trench coat and catching everyone in the room's attention. "Excuse me, Hokage-sama, I shall return after my match," he said lowly before placing it in a pile next to the old man and vanishing from sight, reappearing down on the ground. and looking at the Iwa ninja before him. He was distinguished by his afro-like hairstyle, wearing the standard Iwagakure nin uniform, complete with a flak jacket and a shirt having no right sleeve. He also had a dark object hanging from his waist onto his right leg, reaching to his knees. Neither heard the announcer anymore, as Kako, like many other ninjas of Iwa, had a grudge against the Namikaze, and was glaring at the blonde while leaking killing intent. It was only when the announcer leaf flickered out of the ring when they realized that it was time to start. "You will die here, Namikaze," the Iwa ninja growled, making Naruto smirk. "You aren't the first who have made such a claim," he said evenly before turning just, as a kunai flew past him. "You have decent skill in Jinjutsu." His tone must have been too surprised sounding, as the man took it as an insult. "But you must do better than that." Kako's eyes widened, as the voice came from behind, and used a substitution to move just in time for the blonde in front of him to burst into smoke, while the real one appeared behind him with a heel drop, which turned the log into splinters. Flashing through some hand seals, Kako slammed his palms to the ground, causing it to lurch before a large dragon made of earth exploded from the dirt, roaring, and flying towards Naruto. "I've seen better," Naruto chuckled loudly, as he easily flipped into the air, and landed on the dragon's back, running along it at an astonishing pace, before once again jumping into the air. "Sub, come to the inferno." He roared before unleashing a large stream of hellfire at the astonished ninja. The fire roared and crackled as it engulfed the area before quickly dying down at Naruto's command, only to reveal that the Iwa ninja was gone. Naruto looked around and smirked. "I feel your sin, sinful dog," he muttered before a blade shot from the ground beneath him, followed by the man's body, blindly aiming to impale him. But Naruto had leaned back and out of the way, watching the blade pass his face, followed by the shocked face of Kako. Grabbing him in midair, Naruto threw him aside and watched as he rolled to a halt and jumped to his feet, showing a retractable blade attached to his arm. Kako growled in annoyance and swung his other arm, extending his other blade, before throwing a handful of flash pellets that exploded with a deafening bang before rushing the blonde. "Die." Naruto dodged the first stab narrowly, and the second grazed him on the cheek. But the third left a large gash on his chest and cut into his vest, making him growl and kick the man away. "You ruined my vest," Naruto growled while shrugging it off, showing off the rest of his muscles and tattoos. "I'll have you know that the cost will now come out of your ass." Vanishing and reappearing in random places, he confused the man until he was blindly swinging his blades around, hoping to get a lucky shot. A fist impacted his side, followed by a foot to the chest which knocked him back. Then a shove to the back that propelled him into another fist which broke his nose. These random attacks continued for what felt like hours to him before an uppercut to the chin sent him face up into the air. Kako watched the cloudless blue sky for a moment, as it seemed to go in slow motion, but a sudden pain in his gut sent him flying down, as blood and other fluids exploded from his mouth, forcibly expelled by a heel drop from Naruto. Face splattered in blood, bile, body broken, and sore, Kako went limp, and the announcer declared Naruto the winner. Medics rushed out and loaded Kako up onto a stretcher before rushing him out of the arena, while one made her way over to him. "Namikaze-sama, do you require any medical assistance?" she asked while moving around to look at the gash on his chest. Naruto waved her off. "I'll be fine," he told her dismissively before frowning, as the fishnet was getting uncomfortable thanks to the blood, some of which was already starting to harden. So he ripped it off, pulling it up, and using the cloth to wipe away the blood, showing that it was now a rapidly fading scar. Retrieving his vest, lamenting over the damage, Naruto basked in the cheers he got before vanishing, and appearing next to the Hokage, holding his vest in one arm. "I assume that insurance won't cover loss of clothing," he stated in a serious tone while admitting to himself that he had grown fond of the vest. The females in the room stared at his body, while the men looked at the unblemished area, where a wound had once been, ideally noticing his tattoos, but ignoring them, as they understood that, as a shinobi, your life expectancy was usually in the mid-20s, and you had to live it to the fullest. Besides, they were probably just in honor of his favorite hardcore band, right? "Sorry Naruto," Hiruzen said, as he watched Naruto stick his hand through the slashed fabric. Naruto sighed, "Well damn," before shrugging, and sliding it back on before picking his coat up and sealing it away. Sitting next to the Hokage was the Mizukage, a young beautiful Redeed wearing the traditional robes, while her head covered part of her face. "Pardon me Hokage Dono, but what was that black fire?" she asked, stating the question that was on everyone's minds. "That would be Naruto's bloodline," he said proudly. Hiroshi smiled from his chair beside his wife, "A true fire country bloodline, an embodiment of the will of fire, if I do say so myself." Naruto bowed, as was the standard procedure that one had to follow upon being complimented by a daimyo. "So what's it called?" Kamiko asked loudly. Keeping his tone even, Naruto answered, "Kurohi no Makai, the black flame of hell." Reading from his seat in the stands, Sasuke seethed, as he realized that he couldn't copy anything that he was seeing with his eyes. The next few matches proved entertaining. It would seem that the Hokage wasn't the only one who had his bodyguard fighting, but the Raikage did as well. His younger brother known as Color B had beaten his opponent by spitting ink into his face and blinding the mist ninja long enough to knock him out. Another Kumo ninja by the name of Yujiro Nai, a woman who appeared to be in her 20s, had also caught his interest. Mostly because he could easily sense the Nibi within her just as he could sense the Hachibi in B. He had hidden his own presence for a while, keeping any holders from being warned of a devil being near. Soon the first round of the tournament was finished, and Naruto was listening as the announcer called out the outcomes. Each village had 4 ninjas fighting. For Konoha, it was Naruto, Guy, who wasn't only good in just Jutsu, a woman whom he suspected to be an Anbu, and to his surprise, Anko, who was very talented at going against other. The Anbu lost her match, as did Guy, but his failure wasn't too bad. He managed to do a double knockout on another Iwa, meaning that they were both out of the tournament. But amazingly, all but Iwa were tied, as they had all lost 2 ninjas in the tournament, with that double KO, leaving Iwa with only 1 ninja remaining. Would Naruto and Raisen come down? Hearing his name be called after a short intermission, Naruto made his way down and looked at his opponent. Raisen was a tall, lean young man with long flaming red hair and a prominent X-shaped scar on his left cheek. He was fair-skinned and quite well-muscled despite his lean appearance. He dressed in traditional samurai attire in shades of red and gray with both a normal samurai sword and a wakizashi held under his obi. Staring at each other, the samurai ninja got into a stance and waited for the announcer to leave. He wasn't gone a split second, and Raisen had already had his blade drawn and was sailing at the blonde's neck. Naruto leaned back, letting the blade swing past before smirking as he dodged another 10 swipes. Your blade's skill leaves something to be desired. He spoke only to see the red-headed man smirk back. So you think, he shot back, sheathing his sword. A small click echoed around, and Naruto suddenly felt his body explode in a wave of pain. Large gashes appeared all over his body, as well as another which severed his airways. He fell to his knees, blood spraying out of the arteries in his neck like a busted pipe, as he made a gurgling hiss. Raisen turned away from the blonde with his eyes closed, waiting to hear his name being called. Only the announcer didn't speak. Haha. Hearing the wet laugh from behind him, Raisen turned to see his downed opponent's shoulders shaking before taking a large step back, his hand grabbing the handle of his sword. Naruto looked up at the man and smiled, his pointed teeth covered in his own blood, before letting out a loud demented laugh that chilled the viewing populace's souls. How amusing, the blonde growled out, as his voice seemed to get deeper, going directly for the kill. How utterly useless. Raisen took another step back, as the blonde stood. Impossible. He screamed inside his own mind. Those wounds destroyed his muscles and nerves. He shouldn't be alive, much less standing. Naruto opened his mouth wide and let the blood pour from his mouth like an open water tap. I've died once already, swordsman. I've seen the gates of hell itself, he stated coldly while rolling his head around, showing that the open wound on his neck was still gushing blood. What kind of trick is this? Raisen demanded, channeling his chakra to dispel what he was seeing. Seeing the same image, he drew his sword again, channeling wind chakra through it, and swinging it, making a large distortion in the air race toward the blonde. Naruto's first caught on fire, as he moved, his hand slashing through the distortion, and cancelling out the middle section, allowing the other sides to continue on, and carve deep gorge into the wall. This is no trick, Naruto chuckled. You lack what it takes to slay me, fool. I can see your soul, tainted with innocent blood, and vengeful feelings. Raisen swore that the blonde's eyes glowed crimson, but ignored it. Shut up. I see your sinful past, the innocent families you ripped asunder, the women you slain, the children you murdered. You have no idea what you're speaking of. Naruto's face curled up into a large evil grin. Oh, but I do. The eyes are windows to the soul, and yours speak of the past. The past in which you joined the rebellion not because you believed in their cause, but because it was your mission. His eyes widened, as did the other Mist ninjas including the Mizukage. Raisen snarled, and sped towards the blonde, swinging his sword. Naruto laughed, fool. Sidestepping, Naruto let the man's overextended swing pass him, before reaching toward the wakizashi held in his obi. Wrapping his hand around it, before ripping it out of the sheath, and kicking him away. Naruto's bloody hand stained the cloth around the handle, as the man crashed into the ground, hastily standing up before flashing towards him again. Sword met wakizashi in a shower of sparks, the sounds making the civilians chill, while the ninjas watched in amazement, as Naruto easily blocked or deflected each swift and masterful attack with ease. Once again blades clashed, but unlike before the two locked swords, and pushed against each other. Naruto grinned in the snarling face of the Mist ninja. You're fast, I'll give you that, but no matter how hard you try to hide, I've seen your sin, he told him in a low tone. Your tainted soul will soon burn in the blazes of hell, forced into servitude under Lucifer. I'll kill you first. Naruto laughed, as the pressure increased against him. Is that so? Up in the VIP viewing area, the Mizukage hummed, "The has already won." Everyone looked at her. How is that so? The daimyo of her land asked. Look at the way he's holding him back. He's holding the wakizashi with only one hand, he can strike at any moment. I find your resistance amusing. You've lost. You just haven't realized it, the blonde devil mused. Ha. But before another word was uttered, all resistance in Raisen fell, and was quickly replaced with a cool icy feeling. Looking down, he saw Naruto's free arm extended with a kunai buried in his side. Naruto let it go, and punched him in the mouth, knocking a tooth loose, just as he shoved the sword aside with the wakizashi, and kicked him in the chest. Those kunai are coated in a paralysis agent. Without treatment, the agent will soon paralyze all muscles in the body, including the heart. I'd say that unless these medics hurry, your heart might slow down a bit too much, causing some damage due to lack of blood flow. Medics rushed onto the field again, ignoring the roaring crowd that showed their love by cheering and chanting, "Winner, Naruto Namikaze." Walking off the field, Naruto listened to the crowd chanting his name, the brutality of the match bringing out their primal instincts. Humans were so fickle, one could preach peace and harmony all they wanted, but most would stop to watch a fight, never trying to stop it. Kaio met him in the hallway. "Kaio, take my place next to the Hokage, inform him that I wish to get this blood cleaned up off of me," he told her simply, as he walked off towards the arena bathrooms, which also doubled as a locker room for those who participated in the ninja games, an event which consisted of obstacle courses, relay races, and other meaningless games where teams would compete for a prize. Kaio nodded under her hood. "Yes sir," she intoned obediently, before turning to leave. "But before you do, run home for me, and pick me up a new pair of pants, these are close to falling off." She nodded and vanished. Naruto continued his trek, and entered the men's locker room before taking off his now ruined vest, removing the few scrolls that had hidden away in his pouches, before tossing it in the trash before doing the same with his pants and footwear. That swordsman was good despite what he had said to piss him off. If it hadn't been for his power, that first attack would have killed him, not to mention the amount of shock his body would have endured due to the sudden pain. He had watched the man's first match too, but the close aura of the stone had distracted him, its demonic whispering, and calls to retrieve it, causing him to miss valuable details. Pulling a bunch of paper towels off the roll attached to the wall, Naruto turned the water on, as hot as it could go, before wetting the bunched up brown paper. He wiped his face first, cleaning his mouth and chin, as that was where the most had come from. The water started turning a pinkish hue, making it look like a bloody whirlpool, as the water swirled down the pipes. "Want some help with that, Naruto-kun?" Looking up to the mirror, Naruto saw a radiant in blue robes looking at him. "Mizuki-sama, what are you doing here?" The woman gave him a smile. "Please, call me Mei," she insisted, as she walked up to him, the sound of her heels echoing around the room. Naruto stood in his boxers, and watched her approach, never turning to her, as she neared, and gazed at his back, or the large black pentagram he had tattooed there. "That's an interesting tattoo. It's what I believe in," Naruto mused coolly, almost coldly, which made her smile fade just a bit. Not about his beliefs, but because he seemed to be immune to her charms. "Interesting beliefs. I don't think I've ever seen someone who'd openly say that." He slowly turned, showing her his pentagram necklace, and the other occult tattoo he had. "I wasn't lying when I said that I had died once before. I'm much more inclined to believe in the devil than I am to worship Kami now. Would you kindly tell me as to why you're here? I believe that this could turn out scandalous if someone knew you were here. After all, you're the Kage of another land, and I am a ninja of Konoha. One might see this as an attempt to weaken the village or turn me." Mei frowned. "No, I'm not here to kill you, Naruto-kun. Quite the opposite," I had Raisen questioned, and he openly admitted to working against us during the Civil War. "How we didn't catch him before horrifies me to no end," she sighed. "Thank you for exposing him." She reached up, and ran a finger on the black markings of his evil eye tattoo. "And why would I kill you? We are here for an alliance after all." Naruto grabbed her finger. "That may be, but the delegation from Kumo said the same years ago, only to kidnap the heiress of the Hyuga clan, not hours after signing the treaty." "But we aren't. I'm the Mizukage." Mei smiled before grabbing his hand which held her finger, rubbing the bare flesh softly. "After all, killing someone as handsome as you would be a shame, if it's even possible." Kaio suddenly walked in carrying a small bundle. "Naruto-sama, here are your..." The fox stopped after seeing the Mizukage holding her master's hand. "Thank you, Kaio. Now hurry along. The Hokage is waiting," Naruto told her dismissively. "Mei, watch her leave," the woman asked, letting the statement hang. Naruto shook his head. "She's my underling, my charge if you will. She works for me." Mei let go of him, and he let her finger go. "I wasn't aware that the leaf allowed that." "They don't, but unlike most, I work through a contract directly for the Hokage." Mei watched as he walked around her, and retrieved his new pants, shocked that he was immune to her charms and looks. Any other man would have been drooling, and humping air at her touch, pining away for more. Naruto buttoned the black cargo pants, and slipped on the boots, a little awkwardly, as he hadn't taken the time to untie them. Mei noticed his lack of equipment, and couldn't help but say, "I see you're not wearing a belt with a pouch on it." Naruto looked back at her out of the corner of his eye. "I don't see why that matters. The few I have serve my needs just fine, and if the need arises, I'll take them from my enemy." The woman hummed. "You quite confident in your skills," she mused. "I like that. When you survive death, things tend to seem a bit easier when you compare them. Like looking at a beautiful rose then comparing a weed to it. No matter how you look at it or how much you may like it, the weed loses its luster." You have a way with words, Mei smiled. You strong, handsome, witty, too bad you're a leaf ninja. A man like you would be quite the catch for a woman like me. Assuming that one such, as you could satisfy one such, as me, he smirked. I'm quite hard to please. Mei's voice got husky. Is it a challenge? Are you sure that it's not you who wouldn't meet my expectations? Naruto smirked, showing his sharpened teeth. That would depend on what one expects. She grinned harder, backing off, and shaking a finger at him. You're good Namikaze, maybe I should go on, and give you your first nickname for the field Ginto no Namikaze. How cute, he mused. The silver-tongued Namikaze paints a nice mental image, huh? They both stopped to hear that the final Iwa ninja was beaten by a Kumo ninja named Yujito Nai. I seem to have missed a Naruto-kun match, Mei sighed. Oh well, I must be going. I can't wait to see you fight next. Naruto watched, as she gave him a once-over one last time, before walking towards the exit. I'll be rooting for you Naruto-kun, she said seductively, drawing out the kun in a lovely and wistful coo. Alone in the bathroom, Naruto hummed. These humans are so strange, came a hiss from behind, making Naruto turn to see Yura slithering out of a broken vent near the top of the wall. I could smell the pheromones on her sire. Humans tend to want what they can't have, Naruto said back, as Yura slithered up to him, the 2.5-foot snake climbing up his leg, and up to his shoulder with ease. Master, I found the woman you spoke up to, she hides it well, but she reeks of angels. Naruto smirked, so, the heavenly dog has arrived. Yura nodded his head. Yes, she was sitting up in the top row, on the far side of the ring watching your fights. I see well, little serpent, you've done a marvelous job, you may return home, and sunbathe to your heart's content. The snake made a happy-sounding hiss before sliding down, and easily climbing back up to the vent, and leaving. He spent a few more minutes getting ready, checking his scrolls, and deciding to fight without a shirt, openly displaying his unholy marks to mock the angelic vermin in the stands. Hell, if things progressed in the tournament the way they did, he may even have to unseal his unholy sword for the first time in ages, forged by the flames of hell, and powerful enough to rip a soul from its body. The second round was winding down, and now only 4 ninjas remained. Only he was left for Konoha. It seemed that Anko was beaten by her opponent, the final remaining Mist ninja. Although she wasn't too mad about it, the ninja was a woman, and showed great skill with water. It seemed that Anko didn't like the fact that some men were sexist, and looked down on Kunoichi. So besides him, and a woman from Mist, Killer B, and Yujito Nai from Kumo, were left in the standing, with B fighting the Mist ninja first, and him fighting Yujito next in the semifinals. These were the most competitive matches. Each ninja went to the medic ninjas to get healed completely, and to retrieve soldier pills, so that they would be at full strength. Although, Naruto openly denied them, and refused to be checked, much to the others' amusement. He knew that a lot of people were calling him a prideful fool, saying that he was trying to act tough and cool by refusing treatment, but then again, when did he give a fuck about what they thought? Each competitor wasn't allowed to watch the matches, to make the final round as great as possible. He was told to wait in a lounge area with an Anbu guard at the door watching him, as he sat. He took deep meditative breaths, as he did, head bowed, eyes closed, elbows on his knees, and arms limp, as he leaned forward. He ignored the silent masked man, as he waited. Namikaze-san, the Anbu suddenly spoke after a while, his hand up to his ear. It's time for your match. Naruto opened his eyes, finally. The Anbu stepped aside, and opened the door for him. Good luck Namikaze-san, you're representing all of us here today, and I'm honored to be here right now. I always thought that Anbu were supposed to keep their feelings bottled up while they were on duty. Isn't that the rule? Naruto was sure that the Anbu was smirking. Well, I've never been one to follow the rules, as times like this. Ladies and gentlemen, lords and nobles, may I present the fighters for the second match of the semifinals, Yujito Nai of Kumo, and Naruto Namikaze. As the announcer said, their names both appeared on the field. Yujito had straight blonde hair bound with taut bandages, so as to keep it away from her face. She wore the Kumo forehead protector, and favored a tight black and white shirt. Her black pants were standard shinobi style, and her kunai holster was tied to her right thigh. She also wore purple fingerless gloves with a long string of seemingly plain red beads wound around her left arm. Bandages were also wound tied around her arms, and she also had a red sash tied around her waist. But compared to Naruto's new look, he seemed to be turning more heads than her, even though neither were trying to look good. Even she had to fight back a small blush at the wiry frame of his bare chest. Ready, fight. Right from the start, Yujito sent a hail of kuni, and threw stars at him, before flashing through some hand seals, which ended up being that fired off a large blast of lightning from her fingers which hit the metal weapons, then caused them to create a net of electricity, that flew towards the male blonde. A decent strategy, Naruto said while appearing behind her, leaning back to narrowly miss being hit by an elbow strike. Naruto dodged a few more blows before catching the last, flipping her round, and tossing her like a rag doll. Yujito flipped in the air, and landed on her feet with a small smirk, making him frown, before looking down to see an explosive note. Fuck. The note went off in a large ball of flame, releasing a small shockwave that made some of the closer people jump. I believe I will win, Yujiro stated coolly before a loud chuckle came from the smoke. Naruto walked through the smoke screen with a bit of dirt on his face, and a few scratches, but no burns. You'll have to do better than that, kitty cat. Yujiro's eyes whitened a bit. Come on, let's try that again, don't be a fuzzy. Yujiro's eye twitched. The cat jokes are getting really old really fast. Naruto smirked. I could see the same to you. I'm starting to see wrinkles. Oh, is it a gray hair in your braid? The woman hissed at him. Oh, kitten's got claws. He chuckled. Come on, show me what you have. The two fought for a minute. Naruto noticed that, like him, Yujiro seemed to be able to use her demon chakra to harden her nails to that of a claw, using them to swipe at him wildly. Yujiro hissed while swinging at him. She wasn't lost in rage, but all the cat jokes were very annoying to her. Kitten, be careful. I sense something strange about him. I think he can actually feel my presence inside you. The woman listened to her demon, and filed it away for later. Jumping back, she harnessed a bit more of the two-tailed cat's chakra, and used it to breath out a stream of Nibi's blue fire, setting the ground on fire. She stopped and looked around. The flames blocked a lot of her sight, but she could still see a bit, and she had also hit him point blank. Suddenly, without warning, the blue flames turned black, and flickered slightly before flaring up to massive heights. Impossible. The Nibi yelled from her seal, her eyes white in shock, which matched Yujiro's, as well as the Reikage, and anyone else from Kumo. Nibi, what just happened? She asked her inner demon in shock and fear. No mortal man can control my fire only. No kidding, he's not human, these are truly the fires of hell, he's far beyond my powers, he is a true devil. The devil? One of Satan's own, and by his level of mastery he's highly ranked in hell. A figure appeared in the wall of fire, his eyes glowing red along with two horns that seemed to stick out of his forehead and curved up. The figure smiled, teeth sharp, and pointed to the limit. Kitten, we cannot win this. I'm no match for a devil, much less a strong one like this. I forfeit. Yujiro screamed over the roaring flames, making them vanish until nothing but a smoldering ring of burned dirt and grass was left around them. Looking at Naruto, Yujiro saw that he looked normal, almost as if what she had seen had just been a. If not for the Nibi, his chakra could easily keep her from being affected. She would have written what she had seen off of an illusion. Up in the stands, hiding in the shadows, and out of sight, two figures in torn and ratty cloaks stood watching the fight. It would seem that Lord Naruto has grown stronger in this realm. The first said in a deep, throaty tone that sounded like a hiss. If one were looking close enough, they would have seen that under the hoods the figures were masked in off-white bandages with strange goggles over their eyes, three shining lenses looking out to the field down below. Of course he would get stronger, the other figure said. As young as he is, the only way his power levels have to go up is up. Should we inform him that we have arrived? He shook his cloaked head. No, I've already sent someone. He'll inform Lord Naruto that we have arrived and that everything is going according to plan. Suddenly a man wearing a mask with a headband over one eye body flickered in, appearing next to another group not too far away. Kakashi, you're late, a smoking ninja with a goatee said boredly. Kakashi scratched his head tiredly. Sorry, I kinda lost my wallet while I was walking. I had to backtrack all day trying to find it, but couldn't. Everyone was silent, even the civilians and other ninja in the crowd around them. The woman with red eyes and curly dark hair blinked. That's actually a good reason, she said in a soft, surprised voice. So did I miss anything good? The one-eyed pervert questioned as he stepped over. Asuma smirked. Only the wildest display of skill since the last war. Only Naruto and that Jounin from Kumo are left. Before the final match, both fighters were given time to recover, seeing as if it would give one an unfair advantage over the one who had just finished fighting. Unlike last time, the Anbu wasn't there, so he just retook his place and sat there, waiting silently for the 15-minute wait to end. My lord. Naruto's eyes snapped open, and he found a figure dressed in a dirty torn cloak kneeling in front of him, his head bowed low. So you've arrived, he stated tonelessly. The figure nodded. Yes, my team has been observing your battles, my lord, as well as that of the others. And what of the other units? They're in this realm, and have done as told. Each are waiting the signals. Naruto nodded. Good. During the treaty negotiations after the tournament, have my orders carried out. It will be done, my lord. Kaio-san, might I ask where Naruto is? Hiruzen asked after seeing the blonde leave. The cloaked 3D looked at him. I believe that he would be meditating, waiting for the final match to begin. She answered. Speaking of the Namikaze, Mei said from her seat with a hidden smirk, I find it hard to believe the Konoha has been able to keep him a secret for so long. The Kazekage nodded. I agree, the treaty we have with the Leaf states that we share major information like this, he said, angered that the Leaf was keeping secrets. Before the Hokage could continue, Kaio spoke up. Hokage-sama, if I may. That is not, Kaio continued. With all due respect, I've seen what's written in that treaty, and I do believe that you are in no position to point out that the Leaf has ignored it. After all, Kazekage-sama, your youngest child is, in fact, the container of the one-tailed Bijuru, and not only that, but she is unstable, and close to losing control of her demon. The Kazekage seemed to shrink back in his seat at the looks everyone was now giving him. One could see this as an attack on the leaf. After all, you didn't warn us, and should she snap, she could level much of the village. Even though she let the statement hang, even the untrained daimyo and their families could feel the accusing undertone that just wasn't there. The Raikage cleared his throat. Maybe we should save this kind of talk for the negotiations later today. The daimyo of Cloud nodded. I agree, let's not ruin today with this kind of hostility. Cheering priced the air, as the massive crowds packed into the seats saw the announcer ninja walk out onto the open field, signaling that the wait was just about over. Civilians, and some ninja from all over the elemental nations all shouted out for their favorite fighters despite the fact that they were from another village. Citizens of Iowa who still held old grudges, and Kumo supporters chanted for Killer B to win while Lee citizens, and most of the Mist supporters chanted for Naruto. Killer B looked very similar to the Raikage, his skin, hair, and body build easily alerting people that they were family or related in some way. On his right shoulder he has a tattoo of the symbol for iron, as well as a tattoo of 2 horns on his left cheek. But unlike his older brother, he had a thin goatee instead of a beard with a small mustache. Killer B wore oval-shaped sunglasses over his eyes, and a white-colored forehead protector above them. He also wears a white-colored one-strap over one shoulder flak jacket of a Kamagakure ninja, with a red rope tied around his waist, along with the standard Kamagakure hand, and shin guards, shinobi sandals, and a white scarf around his neck. Finally, he was armed with 7 short swords on his back, the handles wrapped in red cloth, while the end was a dull gold. Both stood opposite each other, Naruto with his emotionless yet icy gaze, while B looked a little annoyed. The announcer called for them to start, and vanished, leaving the two standing there. They stared at each other for a minute before the larger man took a deep breath. B's eyes widened as he saw this. Oh Kami please no. Yo I'm in the midst of my rhymes, y'all is bustin' in on my time, and now I gotta spit my line, fools, you fools. The Raikage's face darkened, and he slid the cage's hat over his face to hide his shame. Mei looked over with a large sweat drop on her head. Isn't he your brother? I nodded sadly, yes. Naruto's eyes twitched. That was pathetic, he said slowly, and for that, I'm now going to kick your ass twice, as hard. He jumped into his stance. The only one who gets to dig me is me, yo. Cause I float like a butterfly and sting like a bee, so, stand back and stay back, or you'll get whacked, you fool. He sang, making the village sweat drop. Every cage looked at A who groaned, can this get any worse? Naruto's eye twitched harder. I find your musical talent lacking. Listening to you butcher your words, and make an idiot of yourself, does not amuse me in the slightest fool. A vein popped up on B's forehead. Hey don't be dissing my rhymes. He roared in anger. Naruto ignored him. I've seen murderers before, but never before have I seen someone who could murder music in such a brutal manner. You bastard, my rap is like my bro. Only I can do it, and that's for show. B rapped before disappearing in a burst of speed. For such a big man, Naruto had to admit that B was fast, skilled too, as those swords he had weren't idle. Naruto was ducking, and weaving for all he had, dodging the 2 swords that B was using, as well as any of the other attacks he threw. Finally, B overshot a lunge, giving Naruto the best opportunity to knee him in the midsection, and roundhouse kicked him away. I must admit, for what you lack in musical talent you make up for it in speed and skill. Naruto said while reaching down, and taking out a scroll from his pocket, unrolling it quickly, and breaking the seal inside. He saw the large burst of smoke, and drew his other 5 blades, holding one in his mouth, one in both of his elbow joints, one in his left armpit, one held in the joint of his neck, one in the joint of his right leg which was raised up, and the final on between the raised thigh and his stomach. 7 swords dance, he called out from around the handle while pumping his lightning chakra through the blades, making them vibrate at a high frequency. He then started spinning like a buzzsaw, and attacked the cloud. A series of loud clangs and flying sparks followed, as the cloud was forcibly dissipated to show the still spinning bee attacking a successfully defending Naruto, who held a large 2-handed monstrosity that frightened and sickened the crowd. In his grasp was a large executioner's blade almost 7 inches thick on the backside, and 5 feet long. It was covered in thick fleshy veins with a large fleshy bulge just above the handle that seemed to move slightly. Swinging the massive sword, Naruto easily shattered one sword before forcibly stopping the spinning ninja, making him stop with his face just feet away from the fleshy bulge of his blade. What the beast started only for Naruto to chuckle darkly. Show me your sin, show me your soul. Naruto hissed out with an insane grin before the budget started twitching harder. He watched in horror, as it split open to reveal a large moving eye that wildly looked around before locking onto him, and staring into his eyes, making everything freeze and lose color. He heard the voice of his former best friend Momoa yelling at him, calling him a monster, and trying to kill him for holding the demon that murdered his father. He heard the prejudiced ramblings of the villagers from his youth, followed by the sounds of him and Momoa fighting. He was forced to listen to Momoa explain why he wanted to kill him, then to himself, as he forgave him, and said that he didn't hold it against him. All those memories from over 30 years ago. What? Naruto said in shock, as he too saw and heard everything, a shinobi with a pure heart and good soul. He forced beat back while he was still reeling from the past, and hit him as hard as he could, sending the dark-skinned man sailing into the wall and into unconsciousness with the 6 remaining swords littering the ground. Impossible. The blonde said in his mind, even after all that, he still has a good soul. Naruto suddenly was full of an emotion that he had long since forgotten: fear. Fear of what that man could do. Naruto wasn't stupid, he was a monster, and only one who was truly pure of heart and soul could kill him. Could it be that Kumo Shinobi could really be the one who could end him and stop his plans? His eyes narrowed. Not if he could stop it. The end. Thanks for watching my video. Leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.